Nice set of cans you got there. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Wrestle Rewind. Tonight is, September 17th? Nope, October. Man, I'm a whole month behind. October 17th, 2019.
You might smack him already.
You missed that. There will be a time where I might have to reach over and smack Tommy a little bit because he will glitch out.
Yeah, it's...
Back. Yeah. You'll know because...
Okay. I'm not sure you're going to get a warning, so you might catch an elbow or a forearm when I catch the hand.
Like the dude caught his foot in the back of the head?
Yes, like the dude caught Chris's foot.
I don't understand why you guys keep bringing up old shit. I mean, there's going to come a point where we need to let this go.
No.
Not in this group.
We'll let that go when we let his sky bus go. Kitty Hawk.
You guys are having fun. Do me a favor, change titles.
Okay, yeah, because it doesn't like the world title. So, hey man, you did bring, of course, your...
Of course.
She brought
I
my next
forgot
championship.
But I went back in the house and got it.
Almost forgot it, or it almost ended up in a pawn shop with the others.
No, this one was still in the apartment. All good.
So, folks, we completely blew right past the introductions. This is our 25th episode of Wrestle Rewind.
When this group 26, because this was from last week.
Nope, that was 24th.
You messed up last
I
week.
did, but that's why we don't even have a thanks for calling me out on that one.
Remember, we were back in September about 2 minutes ago.
That's true.
Behind the curtain.
Wow.
He never made
This
it
one
out.
could be
So,
rough.
God, this has just gone to hell already, and we're not even 5 minutes into the show. But, folks, as always, I'm Tommy T, joined by my co-host Double K, A-Man, and Smokey Z. We do have a special guest with us here tonight, Professor Crumbs.
Keyword special.
Special.
So, Professor Crumbs is going to be making his color commentary debut alongside A-Man for a local wrestling promotion here in Richmond, Virginia on November 9th. The U-Turn Sports Academy, where United Elite Wrestling will hold their inaugural show. And so, in fact, everybody that's in this room will be part of that show.
That we will.
So, we're all excited about that. Tonight's episode of Wrestle Rewind is going to be deemed a Wildcard edition. I pulled this one from WWE.
You pulled it from somewhere.
That's why. Why are we already going here?
Because you led the conversation that way, and I would hate myself tomorrow if I didn't speak up and say something.
So tonight,
we're in September.
Yeah, tonight is a Wildcard edition. And what tonight's Wildcard edition is going to be based entirely off of is
Don't be silly.
I've got some random news articles that I'm going to throw out at the team. They were not prepped in any way with regards to these news articles, so they're going to have to think on their feet and be spontaneous with their responses.
We all struggle with that.
That's no. You struggle with that. Can you spell it?
Nope.
That's exactly what I thought we were going to hear. Aww. So
Never said I was good at spelling.
that runs in our family, though.
Right.
Unfortunately, if your father was on here, I could ask him to spell cat, and he would spell it with a K and two T's.
He asked me how to spell Saul one time.
He can spell beads, though.
I had a girl. Okay.
Wow.
Oh, he'll have to be called in by the.
Professor, welcome.
Don't follow what I said was saying.
Welcome to Wrestle Rewind.
Well, this is like when I tell people, like, hey, look, if you meet my family and they're super polite, there's a problem.
Bad
But
timing.
If you mention something and they figured out where your soft underbelly is and that's what they're going for at dinner, your family.
Soft underbelly is not a word you should use in this group.
No, underbelly is different than undercarriage.
That's
Soft undercarriage?
this is why I said don't use it.
Because now we're going to go here.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So that actually is going to take us to our show starter for every show now. Today in wrestling history, we do have some, or at least one birthday that we need to acknowledge. Simon Gotch was born today. So happy birthday to him and Jason Lee as well. Both of those guys separating celebrating birthdays
They're
today.
cut off.
Cheers. So,
Good Lord.
there you go.
Hey, all right.
So our first part of the show here, what we're going to do is we actually are going to take a couple minutes and talk about this past week's shows. We're going to talk about Friday Night SmackDown last week, as well as Raw and AEW from this week and NXT. So we'll kick it off with AEW, with Friday Night SmackDown. Did everybody get a chance to watch Friday Night SmackDown?
Yeah.
I saw bits and pieces of it.
Yes.
That's a start.
No. Okay. Well. All right. So
The professor was busy professing,
that happens.
Professors do.
as they did.
All right, that's fair. So we're going to kick it off. I'm going to kick it over to Double K first. What was give me your high point of SmackDown and your low point of SmackDown?
I mean, I thought the show itself was just almost like if it had a voice, it would be monotone.
Okay.
If that makes any sense at all.
It was definitely subdued in comparison to the premiere episode the week before.
Well, sure, and I think we've got to get used to that because we're not going to get The Rock. We're not going to get Stone Cold every week. We're not going to get, those extras every single week that we got that drew in 4 million viewers 2 weeks ago.
That's true.
It's not going to happen. So it has to level out at some point. They still brought in, 3 million on average? They lost 1 million viewers and still brought in 3 million, which is still
Impressive.
That's pretty damn impressive if you ask me.
That surpasses Raw on any Monday night.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but I really didn't feel a high spot or a low spot. I think monotone was the best way for me to describe it.
As expected after a debut show. So
Velasquez came out with Ray again, and it was just kind of all right. Here we are.
Well, I think it was nice that they actually verbally addressed their story and their history, and actually showed images.
Well, I think they had to because I think there's a lot of probable wrestling fans that didn't know that part.
I like the little face-offs that they did.
They could easily say they've had history in the past in other companies, like they do for any other generic wrestler, and then just move on and say Brock, is the one he wants to avenge a loss. But they actually went in detail. They showed that they zoomed in on the scar on Brock's face. They showed the photos from their fight.
And I did think it was cool because when they showed it, they cut back to Brock and he just kind of wipes the scar.
Yeah, it was perfect timing.
It was good.
Perfect.
That and Kane told him he was going to give him a matching one on the other side.
Yeah, going to give him a matching scar on the other side. But like I said, that was all well and good, and I did appreciate that. But overall, as a whole, the show was kind of like, we're here.
I think the high spot was Bayley's heel turn finally.
Yeah.
But she turned heel 4 weeks ago.
No, but this is different.
I think she turned heel 4 weeks ago, but Friday night they killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is completely
That's true.
different.
They killed the old gimmick, is what they did.
Destroyed the Bayley buddies.
Yeah.
She cut her hair. She literally actually turned this week. We haven't gotten a promo from her yet, but
I don't know how I feel about her short hair now.
I don't
care.
It
her
fits
gimmick,
her, but the symbolism of it is what it's for.
Right.
Yeah.
Regardless if I personally like it or whatever, it's the fact that she cut the ponytail. That's huge because that was Bayley's character. That's what Bayley was. All her logos and everything has the ponytail on the side.
Right.
Little girls would wear their ponytails like that, so that means a lot.
Well, yeah. So, like I said, she didn't just kill the Bayley buddy. She in a sense killed Bayley, the hugger. She killed the hugger.
Well, and cutting your hair short is like a change of life thing. People do that when kids, marriage, house, stuff like that. So it's very...
That's what Tommy T did.
No, his just fell out.
Camouflage.
I'm sorry, what?
Camouflage. It helps hide the friar tuck.
No, Tommy's was more in the sense of the island being swallowed by the sea.
Oh, Pan Pelly and this little isthmus out here. And then
isthmus, that's it.
Yeah.
I hate you.
Which one, me or him?
We didn't even make it 10 minutes.
That's not a record, though.
Dang.
That's not a record, though.
I didn't bring it up.
No.
You did kind of bring it up. You were pointing. Again,
don't blame this on me.
We can't blame
we have video evidence that you pointed at your dome.
So this is on you.
Let's continue the conversation.
If he grew it out, it'd just be
We did have the draft going on.
Low point. We did have the draft. Low point.
For me,
Yeah.
I would say the draft itself.
Okay.
And I think I hate to say that because it's like the popular thing, but for me it was just, I had so much hope going into this one. Like, I know the other ones in the past haven't been great either, but I thought they actually had a chance. Like we talked about, it makes sense. Like, whether it's like the ideal reason, but show versus show, network versus network. The War Room had so much potential, and when I first saw it, I was like really excited. I was like, this is perfect. This is a great idea. Awesome. And then it was just stupid. And then they showed the same thing on Monday.
I was going to say, did anybody else notice that the War Room was taped, and it was the exact same.
It's the same thing.
On Monday as it was on Friday?
I didn't like how Stephanie came out and stood at the podium and literally ran off 5 wrestlers, gave them their nickname, and that's it. Like, they showed a little graphic, but it didn't make it special. Whereas before, like, the moment that sticks out to me, well, one of them was on Raw when the wrestlers were sitting in the back and Bubba Ray and Devon got drafted to separate shows. Because I remember seeing Bubba stand up and he was devastated because that means their team is over. And you just completely lost all of that. Like, there was no emotion to it. It was just, here's the list.
And it was predictable. And I think it was you that sent us the list to our group.
Their pool, which was absurd.
That they had released hours before the draft actually happened.
But that list did not match what actually ended up happening.
They ended up changing a few things, but for SmackDowns, the first, I think, 8 choices were literally...
Well, I purposely, when you sent it, I purposely didn't look at it because I wanted to be surprised, hopefully. But I think, I agree with what you're saying, but I think we can still add a little bit in there and call it was kind of predictable at times, I think. I mean, with Fox wanting all the top talent, or what they consider top talent, I mean, you knew what names were going to go where, pretty much.
For the most part.
I still think we're going to end up somehow with some sort of wild card.
Well, they already did a trade. Yeah,
there's already been trades, and there's free agents, and they're trying to make this as much like professional sports. So, I mean, we got war rooms. We'd never had war rooms before.
Right.
You had the Fox NFL football robot in there with the Fox execs, but still, I don't know. It didn't feel as special as we thought it was going to, or that they had built it up to be. Becky Lynch was the number 1 pick, though.
Yes.
Which was kind of cool.
Rightfully so.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, did you expect her to say anything different?
Well, no, not even being funny. Like, if you look at the past year or so, like, either her or Roman should have been.
Well,
I would agree to that. Either one of those two.
Yeah, and it didn't surprise me at all because, I mean, you just had The Rock come out a week earlier and basically put her over as the top face in the company. So.
Exactly. So you can't do that and then not have her picked first.
Right.
Or, like, have Seth picked over her or something like that. Like,
I thought it was weird. They saved Charlotte for so long.
Well, she was in a different pool.
I just need to take a second here and answer one of our viewers from this evening. His question was, who did Raw get in trade for Nikki and Alexa? And that was future draft picks.
Right, which makes no sense.
Was what they got.
Are we going to start issuing stock? Like, how? It's a commodities market?
So, here, this is where I think we have a problem. The fans have built in their minds what they wanted this draft or what we thought this draft should look like because we've seen it before from WWE, but what we haven't seen is a relationship where they're trying to treat it like a sport.
Right.
And that's what Fox wants. Mm-hmm. So all of us as fans can build whatever we think this is supposed to look like, and I think we have to do ourselves a favor and forget about everything WWE's done in the past. And the reason why is because I'm a firm believer that I think Fox controls more of what WWE does now than WWE does. And that's what $400 or $1.6 billion will get you.
Yep, that'll set you up for some stuff.
Is you're going to do what we ask you to do because we paid you a ton of money to do it.
It's fair.
So I think we as fans, the more and more, so I agree with you on the predictability part, but at the same time, I think we had, again, in our minds what we thought this was going to look like, and we didn't get that. And so even though they didn't do it as well as I think they could have done it, I think they're really doing the best for what they can, because let's be real, this is not a question of who Vince wants on either show. This is Fox going, here's the list.
This is who's coming to Fox.
This is who's going to be on SmackDown.
Right.
That's what happened. So there was a conference call that occurred on Tuesday afternoon with regards to free agents and things of that nature and what WWE is using those superstars for. So in the middle of that conference call, the representative from Fox Networks made a statement that Fox in no way will allow a cross-branded superstar to appear on their network.
Good for them.
Right.
So I think
I think
that squashes the possibility of like the Wildcard type rules coming back, which I'm a huge fan of not having that.
Well, the wild card wasn't wild at all.
It was the same
literally
5 or
was
6 superstars every single week.
going to each show every week.
There's just Roman on every show.
Yeah, and Becky Lynch on every show.
Fair. Roman and Becky, and
So-
every now and then the Usos.
Right.
Yeah, which we'll talk about them in a couple minutes too. But I just think that we're in a new. Everything that I think we know about the wrestling industry, as far as the main rosters and the mainstream media goes, is we kind of got to forget about it, because I think we're in a new era.
Well, that sounds like expectation setting, because I mean we're getting to the point where, with my background, similar like story stuff, attorneys and accountants make decisions. Spreadsheets make decisions. The creatives don't make decisions.
Right.
You don't get to do the thing that would best serve. You get to do the thing that would best put eyeballs in front of ads.
Right. It's about the money. Which, again, that's what happens when you drop $1.6 billion on 5 years of television deals.
True.
So, I mean, I get it. I get it 100%.
A lot of money.
If somebody were to wave $1.6 billion in front of me, I probably would do almost anything.
Good save.
That's why I'm saying almost anything.
We're going to set up a Kickstarter.
But
The almost anything.
so, I really think SmackDown is going to struggle to maintain its momentum, because it had a lot of promise on its first episode, but now I'm looking at some of the names that are not going to be on SmackDown. And so here's what I think the big picture is for me when I look at who was drafted to Raw and who was drafted to SmackDown. For the first time, we're actually going to get some matchups that we haven't seen before. Because these folks haven't shared a roster. So you think about SmackDown, which has been the show that has carried the WWE title. It's a title that's been on every single SmackDown episode for probably the past 4 years.
It has, yeah.
You're not going to see that now. So that means your Shinsuke Nakamura, the owner of the Intercontinental title, now becomes your top carrying champion on that brand.
Is a prime example for tomorrow, because he's defending it against Roman Reigns.
Right. So
does he drop it
I don't
against
think he
Roman
does.
Reigns tomorrow?
I don't think he does. I think he keeps it. And here's the reason why, is I think you're going to see a revitalization of Shinsuke's career.
I mean,
I
we
would hope so.
Right.
He's
We've
talented
talked about
enough.
it for months and months and months now about how we hope we see that
He
and
has
hope for it to happen, because, I mean, he's gone down the crapper
ever since AJ.
ever since he hit AJ Styles in the balls.
If he loses to Roman, you might as well just
Multiple.
erase Shinsuke Nakamura from everything WWE. Send him back to NXT.
I was going to say, if
If
drops,
he loses to Roman,
Right.
I think that's where he goes.
he goes back to NXT.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So-
It's like the perfect guy to go
and
there.
and that's where he gets his revitalization. I don't think it happens on the main roster.
You think that happens with Finn now that Finn is back in NXT?
No, I don't think
I think Finn is
Shin-
where he needs to be.
He didn't need a revitalization necessarily.
No, but
He just needed
I
to be
agree.
on
I
the
think
track.
he fits that landscape a
Yeah.
little bit better.
Yeah.
You take those guys, Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, I mean, all of those guys, and if you compare them to the size of a Roman Reigns, they're tiny.
Right.
Oh, yeah. for sure.
So
Well, yeah.
Especially
those
when-
guys need to stay right where they are. That's the right brand for
Well,
them.
Gargano's always said he does not want to leave. He's not going
Oh, yeah.
to leave.
Tommaso
He-
Ciampa, when they were talking about his return initially, this was back in the summer, he had said that he would not come back to any other brand other than NXT.
yeah.
He did not want to go to the main roster.
But I think if you throw Shinsuke back down, it's not even back down there now.
So imagine a Shinsuke Nakamura and Tommaso Ciampa title match. Imagine that for a moment. Somebody else is going to have to read him, because I can't read him from over here.
Hey, get him his binoculars there,
Corey
Professor.
says that the Usos and Jeff Hardy should be fired.
Oh,
Or
well.
maybe I shouldn't. We don't say names, do we? Sorry.
You know,
Just
that's fine. I mean, anybody who
sure.
comments on it, well, they can see the names.
Yeah,
so
it's
fine.
I
it's
just
all over
realized
Facebook.
I didn't know if you normally just say like one of our viewers. So sorry.
We call them out from time to time,
from time to time.
especially if it has an extensive question.
So I'm actually gonna, you know what? This is a wild card episode, so we're gonna slide right on to the next topic that they brought up.
I thought he was going to say something.
I did.
Slide into something else.
Really?
I wasn't sure where it was going. I started laughing before he finished saying it.
Dude, don't look at me.
Especially
rodeo.
after you say that.
You were-
I mean, don't look at me.
No, it's good. I got some like paper or something I can put.
Paper can't stop.
Hey,
I threw up paper.
So,
Spit out.
oh my
so
Lord.
one of the things that I'm going to comment on is there was an article that came out earlier this week that said that WWE actually has zero plans to for the returns of Jimmy and Jey Uso as well as Naomi. I don't know how I felt about the Naomi part of that. The Jimmy and Jey Uso, I'm fine with it.
I mean, they haven't done anything.
Nothing's.
Naomi
I'm not going to miss
lately
anything
anyway.
if they aren't there.
Well,
Not that they're not talented. I just won't miss anything if they're not there.
Naomi commented on one of those articles and said, "Don't believe everything you hear. It's pretty much the exact opposite, or something to that nature." Which I don't see WWE getting, especially now with AEW. I don't see them getting rid of the Usos, especially the Usos.
Well, I think it's a very different situation to think of getting rid of someone than just not using them.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I don't see them like firing them.
Well, I mean,
letting
they
them
were
go
there.
or
They were backstage at the
draft.
Raw premiere and the draft. They were there.
Really?
Yeah, they were.
showing
They were
video clips.
Yeah, they were there. They just weren't drafted, and it doesn't say that they're getting fired. The article
there's no
just says
plans.
there's no plan for a return right now.
I mean, that goes back to what we said, like, months ago, back when, what was it, Jimmy had the DUI? How many chances do you get?
Well, I mean,
Well, maybe in this time he's been getting help.
I was going to say he may
I
be getting
hope so.
help,
Possible.
So
or maybe he's going to get help, and then maybe Tampa is a good place for the Usos to return.
Now, I'm going to move this on to the next piece because I think it ties in directly to it. I'm going to tell you that I don't think Jeff Hardy needs to be given another chance.
And I was actually going to say, I don't see the Hardy Boys returning.
This is now the third time that we've talked about him being involved in a legal incident in this show, and we're only 25 episodes in. And this is the third time we've talked about him having a legal problem.
Well, let's think about that, and then pair with it everything.
The previous history of
He
drug and
pissed
alcohol
away
abuse.
his titles and things with WWE when he finally reached the top. TNA.
TNA was probably the
Well, you remember the match with Sting, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Or not the match with
Well,
Sting.
the-
Jeff Hardy's
Anytime I
wrestling
get on
career
YouTube-
should have been over
Yeah,
as of that
is
night.
a good word.
Every time I get on YouTube, that video of the Sting and Jeff Hardy match pops
I mean,
up on my YouTube.
you
Every time.
Sting just was.
Just
That
what a
was
great
the
match it
pure
was.
look of just disgust
Sting was
Well,
and
when you-
disappointment.
And when you hear, so when Sting was walking out of that match, and he's walking
Oh,
up
yeah, I
the
know
ramp
what
at
you-
TNA,
Someone said it's...
the
yeah.
fans were chanting bullshit,
Yeah. Oh,
and
Hey,
Sting
you
looked
looked at him and said,
directly
"I
at the
agree."
crowd and said, "I agree."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, to me, I'm torn. You guys know my past and where I came from when I was a kid, and there are certain things that I have zero sympathy for, and I've given him the benefit of the doubt on multiple occasions, but he has now proven that he is not capable of keeping himself clean and sustaining it.
Well, I don't think we'll see Jeff again. I think that I was reading something the other day too. It's going further than just him having a problem. Now the entire Hardy family is fighting.
Yeah.
Now
their wives are...
Their
yeah.
wives are
crazy.
going. Yeah.
Yeah, and even
Yeah.
Matt said something to the effect of, like,
he basically
has the right to say whatever he wants to or about his brother.
and he said that
will.
his brother's responsible for his own
And
actions.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
what Matt said was not bad. I mean,
No.
it's
No, basically, to sum up what Matt said in his tweet was, my brother's responsible for his own actions. I think that he needs to be held accountable for what he does. And that was really the extent of what he said.
At the beginning of the comment, it was like, I love my brother. I want
Yeah.
nothing but the best for my brother.
Of course.
And
I mean,
then,
as anybody would do.
right.
The only thing that's I mean, not the
But
only
he's a
thing,
grown-ass
but-
man at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
it sucks
there's nothing
for,
Matt can do for him.
Right.
Right, but it sucks for Matt because in WWE's vision and or maybe Vince, there's no Matt or Jeff at this point. It's the Hardy Boys or nothing. My opinion, I guess, because they let Matt do his whole delete thing, but they didn't really
I don't think
dive
that's...
into it. I don't see them.
I think there was more.
because Matt still wants to wrestle.
I think
Matt
if
wants
they
to
were
be out
both
there.
healthy and both clean and doing the thing, I think there is more of a Jeff thing
yeah,
than there is a Matt
yeah,
thing.
Yeah,
And it's
So-
always been like that, though.
It has, but here's the difference between what WWE does with their business and what the others do. So you think about an AEW and you think about a TNA or now an NWA. And really what we're talking about here is the differences between how they approach a creative platform. So for TNA, for NWA, and even for AEW, a lot of those guys do their own creative. Like they invent themselves of how they want to be presented. WWE is not interested in that. WWE has way too many sponsors and money tied up for them to put it in a wrestler's hand to choose what happens. So they're not going to do that. They're going to go to their board of what they know works, what they know will produce money, and what they know puts asses in seats. It goes like this for me still goes all the way back to Booker T's comments about Brock Lesnar. When people were furious that Brock Lesnar was still headlining pay-per-views throughout 2017 and 2018, and they were furious that he still had the Universal title, and they were like, well, why? Why is he the guy that Vince brands? Well, because he sells tickets.
exactly.
So, as Booker T said, and I quote him in saying this, you guys have heard it 100 times by now, when Roman Reigns and the likes of those guys can put the asses in seats that Brock Lesnar does, then Vince won't need Brock anymore. But we are still not at that point. Matt Hardy will never be that guy.
And it's sad.
No.
Oh, no.
He is an incredibly talented individual.
His mind for the business, I think, is so underappreciated.
He needs to just go
It's
ahead
sad.
and evolve directly into a backstage role. Because I can tell you what's going to happen to him. If WWE doesn't find a way to use him,
He's gonna go to
when his
AEW.
contract's done, he'll be in AEW.
Absolutely.
If you follow him on Twitter, like especially this past week, like just stuff that he's been saying, like I don't see him sticking around much longer.
And I'll go back to what I said months ago. The
Huh?
best.
John Moxley,
Yeah.
man.
That's a compliment. That's good.
That's kind of big right there.
Yeah. Look at you.
What?
So,
But what I was saying,
Dig it, man.
like, I'll go back to what I said months ago. The best
You
part
get
of
attention.
Matt Hardy was when he was Matt Hardy V1.
yes.
That's the best version of Matt Hardy we've had, and I don't think you're going to beat that.
Well, and the TNA thing, like, this is my only piece on the broken universe. It worked in TNA because of its platform.
Right.
If you take that and try to push it into a WWE environment, that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I mean, I remember the 14 and a half minutes that Double K wasted
Oh,
watching
my God.
the final
You'll never get
deletion
that. You'll never get
on
that.
Monday Night Raw,
It's okay.
and I was getting text messages about every 90 seconds because I was at work
Oh, I was
going,
pissed.
this is
Were you
such a
really?
waste of time.
Well, yeah,
This
because
is
the
pathetic.
only reason that I kept watching that trash
Was because I couldn't.
was because he couldn't, and I was texting him literally play by play of what was going on, followed by "I hate you, you suck. This is a waste
At the
of my
end of
life
this,
at this point."
At the end of this, I got a comment. At the last text message from him was, I just wasted 14 minutes of my life that you now owe me. I don't know how I'm ever going to give those minutes back to him.
I mean, that's fair though, right?
But you know,
I need to be compensated for my time.
so I just think that there's just, I'm over the Hardys. I'm over the Usos. I'm okay with not seeing either. Actually, I'm not saying permanently. But for now, I'm okay with not seeing that.
I mean, at this point, if I had to pick one to come back, I would pick the Usos. Hands down, without question.
For sure, yeah.
I mean, because the Hardys really have had their time. I feel like the Usos are in the middle of their best years, and they keep on screwing it up.
And
No, not
WWE
they.
Well,
There's one.
Well, no, they've both had some
I think
issues.
that-
Oh, well, that's
Yeah.
true. They
They
both have had
some
DUIs
issues.
now.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, I think they took the Uso penitentiary a little too seriously. Just a little too serious. Like, it's...
Real method.
Guys, it's a gimmick. Okay? I mean,
It's not real life.
living your gimmick worked for Ric Flair.
Did it, though?
Yeah, I mean, it worked pretty well.
How's that looking for him now?
Hey, man.
I mean,
He how long did he stretch a career out for?
Almost 40 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'd say it worked out pretty good. I mean, he's kind of still going.
well, I mean,
He stretched
just
it
think
out
of
as
that.
far as his
Hey,
skin stretches
real
now.
quick, while we're talking about Ric Flair, did anyone else wonder if this whole crown jewel payoff that he's gonna get is WWE trying to compensate for the man trademark money?
No, so here's what I think about Crown Jewel. And
It's good
I mean
theory,
this,
though.
I mean
I
this
hadn't thought about
sincerely.
I'm like
Crown Jewel for me is a lot like Fox and SmackDown. That show is whatever Saudi Arabia wants that show to be.
That's
But why now would they choose Ric
Because it's the
Flair,
names.
Hulk Hogan?
So
But,
think
like, out of all
about
the other
but they
shows-
haven't seen Flair at Crown Jewel. There's a difference between watching somebody on TV and seeing them in the
And
arena.
if you remember, was it last year they saw Hogan,
They saw Hogan.
Yeah.
but Hogan wasn't in ring or out.
No, he just walked out onto the stage and that was
and
it.
just kind of.
Yeah.
Kinda
And that was
like
not,
at
So-
wasn't that like the
WrestleMania.
first appearance for him.
I would have
back?
still kicked
Yeah,
somebody.
that
in the
was
head,
his
though.
first
Yeah,
return.
that was
like
his return.
A test the water.
Well, that was his
type thing.
return. Yeah, it was a test of waters because then when we came back to the States, you still didn't see him for a little while.
Right.
Until
Until
WrestleMania.
but he made his apology
Oh, we saw him then.
first.
Yeah, we saw him at WrestleMania, that poor dude in front of us.
So, would you like to fill the professor in on what we're talking about? Because he has no idea.
No idea. No.
Oh, okay. So Professor
You
Crummy,
wouldn't want to be sitting
Crumbs,
right there.
whatever your
I didn't
name
say
is.
do you want to reenact.
See that now.
So,
Crummy.
Don't worry. Yeah.
I didn't hear what he said.
so
I was.
anyways, we're sitting there in MetLife Stadium, and there's a moment when Hulk Hogan's music hits. And it's literally me, Smokey Z sitting to my left, Double K to my right, and then Nico is on the far right on the other side of Double K.
He's sitting in your seat, basically.
Yeah, so
That's why
the
I said
music
you probably
hit,
wouldn't want to be sitting there.
and within less than a couple of milliseconds, I still can't describe how it happened, but there was a guy in front of us that Double K kicked square in the back of the head, knocked his hat off.
I did.
The guy turns around quickly to look like he's pissed off, then sees what he's looking at, and then turns around and goes back the other way.
Picks his hat up.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
Double K and I and Smokey Z are like arms
Standing.
intertwined, locked
Oh,
together.
Yeah.
Don't know how we got there, but it happened.
The spirit moves you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Blackout.
I'm looking for Nico, who's damn near on his knees, who he can't breathe because Double K elbowed him in the chest.
Trying to get up.
So,
You exploded. You straight exploded.
can you not say that? That's not how I.
Straight exploded and all the rest. And brought everyone with you.
Just said. First day, you already said it exploded on my chest. That's awesome.
I'm having a great time.
Raz is great.
That's just creative.
So after you straight exploded, he picked up his cap and saw himself out.
We were all fine after that, after he exploded on Nico's chest.
Except for Nico.
Well, how do you come back from something like that?
Well, you just clean yourself up and get back to the game.
You put a towel and then you're back at it.
Well, Richardson thought this was funny. I didn't.
Oh, man.
Everybody thinks it's funny, but you.
Great.
I mean,
And then Nick sat there for the rest of the show with a chest that looked like Kofi Kingston.
I'm so glad you finished it that way. I was
I'm
worried.
so glad he finished it.
So was Nico.
What did you say?
What? Nothing. It happened. You can watch it played back later.
Anyways,
We don't have instant replay.
so let's move on
So that's the
to
whole story of WrestleMania right there.
Good.
Monday Night Raw.
Oh, that was like the first 5 minutes of the show.
Right. Okay.
So, Monday Night Raw, I personally felt was kind of lackluster.
It was underwhelming.
Amen?
See, the one time you don't ask for one-word answers, I give you a one-word answer.
Yeah, I know.
I was disappointed again because I think they're just ruining the Fiend. And what they did with the Firefly Funhouse, I'm trying very hard not to be too judgmental yet because they have to have a vision for this thing. I can't see them just killing it.
Well, it's also
That's
Paul
right.
Heyman having the vision, so...
And that's why I'm trying to remain hopeful. But there's so many questions. I think the first one for me is we knew Seth was going to go on this hunt at the beginning of the show or towards the beginning. We saw nothing else, so then I'm thinking, okay, maybe he didn't find him towards the end. And then they cram in, maybe a minute or two of he somehow found the Firefly Funhouse and burned it down.
Well, he got lost because GPS took him a completely different direction.
Well, he found it within 3 hours, so
Yeah.
he was in the right area.
But I can say they at least finally used his burn it down gimmick for something.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I thought it was cool, and I'm like you. I'm hopeful. I have no idea what is going on.
No, Seth Rollins has literally committed arson 2 times.
What was the first time?
He burned down the Hall of Fame.
Oh.
That's where the whole burn it down thing
Yeah.
came from, was to promote 2K.
But yeah, that was the main thing that stuck out for me. For
One of
Raw.
our listeners, Jason, said that he actually fell asleep during Raw.
And it's funny he says that because once about like around 9:15 came, I was like, we still have another hour and a half left of this show.
See what?
Yeah.
The comments and I just wanted to just turn it off, but I wanted
So-
to see what happened with the
So I
with
guess
the
I didn't
funhouse.
miss anything.
I'm curious to see what they do now because I think on the creative side of it, I can definitely see how this doesn't go bad for The Fiend or Bray Wyatt. And here's why. The Firefly Funhouse was a way to contain Bray Wyatt. If the Firefly Funhouse is burned down, then there's nothing left to contain The Fiend.
I know, but it's too soon. They
I
don't need
don't-
to do it right now.
I don't think it's gone. I think you're going to see a different rendition of it. And here's why. Because what show is it not going to be on anymore?
Raw.
Raw.
Well, it will be until the end of this month.
So I think what you're going to see is you're
Will it,
going to
though?
see
I mean, they
a
have to-
different...
I mean, that's only...
But they have to hype the match.
It's only a couple weeks.
I think you're going to see a different side of it. That's so there is...
God,
Another-
I hope not much longer.
Another listener, or another viewer question from Corey says, how long do you guys see the Bobby and Lana fling going on?
I think this is just the beginning.
I do too.
I'm afraid
And
you're
did you
right.
notice it starts right when it hits 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
Every time. It was literally 10 o'clock on the dot. Next thing you know, Raw comes back from commercial break, and it's Lana on this massage table.
So what's the
What's going on?
significance of that?
Of what?
It's starting at 10 o'clock.
Because
Well,
I think
that's a different rating.
It's a different rating, but what's not on anymore?
On
football-
So Monday Night Football usually runs into the 10:30, 11 o'clock hour. But
On Monday?
usually you're getting right at halftime at 10 o'clock.
Click, 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 click.
So what's your
Yeah.
clientele for folks watching NFL? And how can you get them?
But you show... Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm not saying it
You
works.
show Bobby Lashley and Lana, and he's like, it's so awkward.
They're not watching it for Bobby Lashley.
promise you.
Some of them probably are.
But
But.
even then, it's so... Okay, whatever. Let me just not. It's just...
So
I'm
so
with you.
stupid.
I'm 100% with
you
you.
can't even,
another one of our viewers said that this is Edge and Lita all over again.
100%. Who said that?
Jason.
Yeah. He and I have had that conversation. 100%.
Yeah,
I think
it's
stupid.
Edge and Lita all over again.
in the PG form.
Yes.
I thought when Edge and Lita did it, it was stupid.
I don't know. The
At
live
least they
sex
pushed
show
the
would have been
limits.
pretty
That
cool.
was-
Yeah.
That was
They
pretty
pushed
cool.
the limits. They actually tried to be
Right.
edgy. See what I did there?
Ha,
I didn't even
Professor,
try.
do you approve of
I
that?
do.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Puns.
Thank you, sir.
Puns.
Always
Puns are
I
good.
love puns. I love puns.
Always welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry about y'all's luck.
Yeah.
Oh, we crossed over a little John Moxley with some James Storm there.
Little bit.
Johnny Storm?
James.
So, no, not Johnny.
But now he's like.
Oh, I see what you're
Johnny
doing. I
Storm.
see what you're doing.
Comics.
I got it.
And
I'm with
It
you.
was a pun.
I'm with you.
I got it.
Thank you.
Understood.
I got it. I was with you on that one.
I believe you.
He didn't watch what you were saying, but
It's
he
only like the fourth time that he's talked, so I'm sure you believe it.
Yeah.
So,
Should have guessed more often. This is great.
anyways, let's move on to the next show of the week. We'll stick on WWE. So, NXT on Wednesday night. Thoughts?
I mean, I always love NXT, but this was the first time ever I was trying to watch it. I watched all of AEW, and then I was going to watch NXT because I had it recorded. I fell asleep during Keith Lee's match.
Okay.
Mainly because I was tired, not because it was garbage or anything. I just fell asleep during that match.
I was switching, like watching both AEW and NXT, and I found myself watching more of AEW just because it was more exciting.
I was ridiculously glad to see Tommaso Ciampa back. Was not a big fan of the match.
It was a squash match. It was just like a thing.
Well, and
It was like a drawn-out squash match.
Yeah.
I think they had to be careful with him. It's his first match back.
Yeah.
I did like how the first time he got popped kind of in the head, neck area, like he sold it. He rolled out and was like grabbing it and, you know, he acknowledged it and then went on. But like I said, I don't know. It wasn't, I can't say NXT was underwhelming because like I said, I'm an NXT fan. I really like everything they do. But it was like, I've seen better NXT shows.
Hey, man.
The match that really stuck out to me was Matt Riddle and Bronson Reed.
There you go.
I think
see,
that
I fell
is
asleep.
his first not right.
I was talking to you about that before we started the
Yeah.
show.
I hate to say it, but I wasn't really that familiar with him. I'd heard of his name and seen like a few things, but man, him and Matt Riddle, they really put on a show. And Matt Riddle is scary strong.
Yeah.
I don't think that gets emphasized enough, especially wearing no shoes.
When he caught,
Like, the things
when he
that he
caught him out of
does,
the corner, and I was like,
It's
all right.
insane. It's insane. Like,
That's a big
Yeah.
dude to
he
be
is
catching
a
like that.
beast. Yeah. So Matt Riddle, man, he is going to be a star as long as he doesn't say the wrong thing,
That's, I think, where we're at
like
right now.
outside.
I think his mouth's going to get him in trouble.
I think, and that's why I think being in NXT right now is perfect for him because he's under Triple H's umbrella, so he still has that security blanket in a way.
Yeah.
But man, that match I really enjoyed that.
And that match wasn't like super long, but it was.
No, but it put over both guys, and it pretty much highlighted both of their strengths and covered any weaknesses. Like, it was great. I thought.
I want to talk about something real quick that is something I realized this week. And there are a lot of people in the wrestling business right now and fans alike that, and bear with me for a moment while I say this.
Why does he look at me and say it?
That owe Brock Lesnar an apology and a thank you.
Okay, I didn't know where we were headed there.
And here's why. Without Brock Lesnar, there is no Matt Riddle. Without Brock Lesnar, there's no Bobby Lashley. There's no crossover from Jack Swagger to Jake Hager. All of these guys that have gone, without Brock Lesnar, there is no CM Punk in the UFC.
There's no Cain Velasquez.
There's no Cain Velasquez in the WWE. None of that happens without Brock Lesnar. He was the guy that proved that not only
No
can you
Ronda
do
Rousey.
both well, there's no Ronda Rousey without Brock Lesnar, because he was the guy that proved you can do both and be good at it. Which I honestly think that the Lesnar-Velasquez match at Crown Jewel has every potential to steal the show. If you go back and watch Cain Velasquez's match, his matches with, AAA? The guy does a standing Hurricane Rana.
Like he's Rey Mysterio size.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
He's 6'6".
You would think he's been doing this his whole life.
And he jumped from the mat to the guy who's 6'2"'s shoulders and hit him with a Hurricane Rana. First of all, Lesnar couldn't dream of doing that.
Oh no.
He's too tough.
But watching Lesnar, I can still remember WrestleMania.
Nice
The
shooting star press. So,
Yeah.
shoot,
Well, not even the
Lesnar
shooting
wanted
star
to.
press. Go back to just 2 years ago when we watched him hurdle over Goldberg.
Yeah.
I mean, he cleared
If he
clear
wants to,
over
he could-
Goldberg.
God, he could be scary.
So the fact that you've got all of these guys that right now don't have a career in professional wrestling without Brock Lesnar. He was the guy that went and said, because you remember before this, it was one or the other. The UFC guys hated the wrestling guys. The wrestling guys hated the UFC guys. UFC guys always said wrestling was fake.
Well,
Wrestling guys always said UFC guys couldn't last in the ring because they couldn't do the actual art form of the business.
Right.
The only other person was Ken Shamrock, but he wasn't like main.
He also
top level
never
like Brock
really
Lesnar.
he never really did any big wrestling moves either. He was a brawler.
Yeah, well, because you had him and you had Dan Severn,
Right.
and
Yeah.
neither one did anything what you would consider risky or high impact.
No. But Lesnar broke that barrier.
Yeah, he did.
He broke that barrier for everybody and basically said, and as much as I hated Lesnar for all of his UFC career, he did something that most other UF or WWE wrestlers who tried to cross that bridge. So when Shamrock left the UFC and came to WWE, then went back to the UFC, he never really became anything again. Mm-hmm. He didn't win a lot of fights.
Right.
And the ones he did win were usually by unanimous decision.
Yeah.
Lesnar was the guy that said, you want to tell me that I can't go from being a wrestler to being a fighter? And I can distinctly remember what happened when he handed Frank Mir's ass to him.
Yeah.
I mean, every bit of it.
Yeah, but Frank Mir got his revenge.
He did, but that doesn't
But
change
still,
the fact that Lesnar in his first fight showed up and beat the snot out of a 6-year veteran in the UFC.
Who was a beast before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lesnar whipped his ass. So, it's one of those things where you talked about Matt Riddle and his ability, and I think the guy's a freak of nature. I think that his in-ring performance is on par with some of the best that have ever been in the business. He just needs to learn how to control what he says.
Well, he needs to learn the respect side of the business.
So,
And I don't think he's been
They are-
too crazy yet. But I think,
no.
It's who he's chosen to speak poorly about or to.
and I think that was calculated, obviously.
I mean, it very well could have
Which,
been.
I can't necessarily say I blame him.
I don't know if it was calculated
because
because-
can happen. They end up in a match, which is what he wants to begin with.
But
like
see,
it generates that much.
And that's why I don't
attention.
know if it was calculated because nothing like that happened.
Not yet.
It's
Why not?
it's being planned.
Yeah.
The plan is
there's gonna be a match.
the plan is Tampa. That's the plan.
Yeah, I
Riddle,
see that.
Goldberg, Tampa.
If not, I'd be very surprised.
So
guess
because
we'll see it
again,
when we
they're
get
gonna. Paul Heyman's already openly admitted that Goldberg is his version of Bruno Sammartino.
Well, and even
So
though-
he's gonna. The reason why is he's the guy that you pull out of retirement every so often to defend his legacy. And that's that's what they did with Bruno.
I mean, the dude's still. I mean, he's still jacked.
Yeah.
He's not Goldberg from 2000 or.
the only difference
the
is
late
the gray
90s.
beard.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's just white versus brown. That's all it is.
That's it.
He's
It doesn't
a-
even look bad.
No, I mean,
It's not
he's
even a negative thing.
he's a little smaller, but he's still huge.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to say.
Yeah. So,
Got the best of both worlds, I guess.
anyways, let's continue the conversation on. Let's talk about AEW. This week's show of Dynamite. I'm going to reserve my opinion for last.
No, you go first this week. You always save it for last.
Be the bellwether. Set us off.
I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say that AEW has the best show running on professional wrestling right now.
Wow. What's cool or crazy about this is 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago,
I crapped all over him.
he shit all over AEW.
I did. I absolutely
hated
did.
it.
He said I was going to be wasting, what was it?
I
2
said I
hours
would
of
be
my
wasting
life
2 hours
by
of my
going to their
life that
show.
I would never get back.
Now you know how I felt for that 14 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I-
And last week, I ate crow and admitted that I was wrong. And I told everybody that was... They actually have a great product going right now.
They do.
They really do. I don't know if they can sustain it. But we'll see.
The only gripe that I have now,
right now.
Yeah.
no, I think overall it is the best show on television right now. The only gripe that I have, and I was talking to Nico, and you may have been out there. You were definitely out there. And you may have been there. You hadn't got here and knocked on the door yet.
Caught up?
I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what was going on before the show started. Is that usually in most of their matches there are some glaring botched spots and moves. In most of their matches. I wasn't a big fan of Britt Baker's match.
No.
Last night. Wasn't a big fan of that.
That was that match. It was bad.
That was my least favorite match of the night. But I mean, I liked pretty much everything else about it. But it just seems like when there is a botched spot, it's a very important one. They started the night off that way. They completely botched the finishing move for the win in the opening tag match.
And then they were.
And then it was missed.
The very beginning of the women's title match.
Yeah, I mean it was missed badly.
Well,
but I don't know if it's because they're nervous. I don't know if it's because they're trying to go too fast or do too many big things all at one time. But if they would just clean that up.
For me, the women's division is going to be a joke until they get a new belt.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing looks like a Mattel toy.
It's bad.
It looks tiny on the woman that has it. She's what?
She's like 3 feet tall.
Well,
90 pounds.
imagine what it was like.
Wristwatch.
Yeah, it's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Like a $5 wristwatch.
So, I don't even give it $5. It's like a $2 toy.
Fair enough.
But
It's terrible.
it is.
When you press it, it plays 3 sound files.
Yeah.
The time is, and then it doesn't say anything.
Nico, can you find us a size comparison there of the AEW women's title?
To the actual Mattel
that's
version.
Those are in somebody's hands.
Yeah.
Unless that is, I'm going to name drop a wrestler here. You ready? Andre the Giant. Yeah.
No, that's that. Yep.
That's a
No.
human being. That's a small human being.
Right.
What?
That's the champion.
No, that's not a belt.
Yes,
Right.
it is.
Synchronized swatches.
And
What you wore last night.
when they first came out with their heavyweight title, then wasn't a big fan of it, but it's starting to grow on me.
I think their title's a little too gaudy for me, but it's not a bad looking belt.
No. It's starting to grow.
In comparison to
They
the
need the women's title to grow.
Well,
Yes.
I mean,
So there's the heavyweight title.
Right.
In comparison.
you mean the thing that looks like an actual wrestling belt?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
As opposed to
It's just
If you look at that picture right there, that one
the small person's holding it in their
in the fingertips. Right. That's exactly what I was going to say.
I do not wish to break this delicate.
It's
Is the Fabergé firm back, like, doing things? Is that what?
it just. I don't think it was very well thought out.
We
No.
should investigate that.
No.
Russian connection.
So
It's not even a hat. It's too small to be a hat on a tiny head.
Oh yeah,
Look at
yeah.
that.
And again, that is a very tiny human being.
Yeah, I think that
She's small.
She's like 95 pounds.
Yeah.
95,
Maybe.
90,
I
not
just-
even 100 pounds.
Like I said, that match, I just did not enjoy that match. I didn't. I enjoyed the entire show. I did not enjoy that match.
well, and I think that Bart Baker is a
Bart.
Wow. Let me impress you with some close-up matches.
Bart.
Britt Baker is
Britt Baker will now forever be known in this group as Bart Baker.
she's got a ton of talent.
Hey, Bart.
I just think she's one of those folks that has to be in the ring with the right person.
Well, and people keep crapping on her, but she's done this for like a year.
Yeah.
Like literally, she's been
Yeah.
in medical school for how long now? Like she wasn't really that well known on the independent scene, meaning she really didn't have to travel or do as many shows on the independent scene before she got to AEW. So she's still learning. So we can't really hold her inexperience against her because you can only become better over time.
Yeah.
So, and I think in AEW
Well, and-
it's a good fit for her.
Let's not forget that this lady, her full-time job is she's a doctor.
Right. But that's my point. She's been
So-
wrestling for a year. I
Yeah,
think,
she
maybe
doesn't
I
have
think maybe 2 years.
the
but
time.
There we go.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't have the time to spend as much as some of these other folks do. So I commend her on what she is
But
able to do.
she was literally training while in medical school.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
wow. Like, it's insane.
What'd you say?
Is that a dental chair?
Yeah,
she's a dentist.
She's an actual doctor.
So, like, bust people's teeth out, save them.
Right.
It's
Put
called
it back.
A little bit of
it's
milk,
called
stick them in something.
job security.
Job security. My first 2 jobs were a lifeguard
stick
and
it
a
in milk?
funerary assistant.
Really
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Drum up business, One Direction.
All right.
Well, that got dark.
So, also on the AEW news, there was an individual that was supposed to wrestle last night who did not get to wrestle. Apparently, he was injured earlier on in the day, and that is Luchasaurus.
I was wondering where he was.
Another freakishly talented
I
guy
was watching some of his highlights last night.
who does things that he should not physically be able to do.
For a massive dude.
Yeah, Nico, can you find us a quick highlight reel of Luchasaurus?
Oh, I'm on it. I love Luchasaurus.
How tall is he? Like
6'7".
Yeah.
6'7",
There
and
you go,
doing
6'7".
a standing gainer.
He used to do gymnastics.
Well, that's fair.
It's a massive dude to be doing that.
Well, I mean, just his wrestling moves in general, like how quick he is and how well he moves, is incredible.
Well, it's like you were saying. You don't normally get those attributes from a 6'7" anybody.
No,
And the thing
And he
was in-
wrestles like a actual luchador.
Yeah.
This is my favorite clip of Luchasaurus.
Titled Hot Cat.
we'll see. Now, will our listeners and viewers, or will our viewers be able to see this, Nico?
Yes, they will. See me 2 seconds.
Okay.
Let you calm down.
I'm just gonna point out that Tommy T did say a quick highlight.
It's 1:14. Thank you, sir.
I actually watched this
That
video
was more
last night.
directed at you, but
It's a picture perfect question mark kick too.
Oh, it's artistry.
Unreal.
Yeah. Oh,
Who needs an
Look at
egg
that
plot to
choke
beat?
slam.
look at that.
God.
I mean, guys that size shouldn't be able to do that.
No. But if you watch that, he doesn't rush it.
No.
No.
Like-
he just lets it come to him.
Right.
Yep.
I don't think he can rush it, though. I think if he were to try to rush it, you would start seeing mistakes.
And that's exactly the point that I was making about most of their matches that they have out there right now. They are going so fast, which I appreciate every bit of it. But slow it down a little bit. Let's cut down on the mistakes, and then I would almost say you've got a perfect product out there right now. I can't say it's a perfect product right now because of those things.
Well, and I think to a lot of people, it depends upon your level of understanding and artistry.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it might be hanging wallpaper. I couldn't tell the difference when you could tell the difference. But some of the things you've talked about and shown to me, what you were talking about earlier, like anybody can see that doesn't line up.
Right.
Anybody can see that was a mistake.
Yeah.
And if it was addressed well, yeah, fine. But if it's just manageably addressed, like, stop making mistakes.
I couldn't agree
no, that's,
any more than I already did.
Yeah.
Well
you
said,
hit the
Professor.
nail on the head.
Well,
That's why we have the professor.
He is the professor.
That's what-
So, one of the things that I just read about Luchasaurus is that the current belief right now is that he tore his hamstring. Which,
God, that hurts.
if that is the case, then we will not see him for several months.
No, he's out for a while.
That'd be a big loss for them.
And the problem with anybody who's ever had a torn hamstring, usually once it gets surgically repaired, you don't have the range of motion that you had before.
Which he's had issues. I don't know if it was with his hip, but he's had that was what derailed him in NXT years ago. He really, I can't remember what it was, but it was some type of serious leg injury, and he was out. And I don't think they would clear him to come back, which is why he never did.
Yeah, and I think you're going to have, with a guy like him, it's kind of like, and I would say this, the same thing with like a Ricochet, even though Ricochet's not the same size, but their style of wrestling for what they do, they're one injury away from their career being over. Because if you limit his in-ring ability to not being able to do some of those things that he does, then you're taking his appeal away. Not that he's a bad performer, that's not what I'm saying, but that's what he's built his character off of. So if you take that away, you now impact his ability to perform the way the fans expect him to perform. And that's where we as fans cripple every wrestler on the planet. Because we set an expectation based off of how someone performs, and we expect them to always be able to deliver that performance every time they get in the ring.
Right.
But that's not going to happen. You look at, Goldberg's a prime example. That one match with Undertaker does not undo Goldberg's career.
Nope.
But that one match is what people hung their hat on.
Fine.
Right. And that's our fault as fans. That's not his fault as a performer.
That's right.
That's our fault as fans.
I mean, he got knocked out.
Right.
He literally got knocked out on his feet.
And it's not... And the thing that I think is interesting about all of that is if I go back to WrestleMania 30, which The Undertaker doesn't even remember the match with Brock Lesnar, because he was out within the first 5 minutes of it. Nobody... that match wasn't great, but nobody crapped all over it. They crapped all over Lesnar pinning him at the end is what people crapped all over.
Right.
But they didn't crap on Undertaker's poor performance.
Nope.
So we as fans get very picky about who we want to criticize when that kind of stuff happens. And it's not the performer's fault. So, even with Jericho was the guy that said, with Goldberg being out there 54 years old, sweating, has a concussion, it's 114 degrees inside the ring, what were you expecting him to do? And at this point, what? It was after midnight in Saudi Arabia?
Oh, yeah.
After a 15-hour flight over there?
Yeah, it was late.
So how well were you expecting those guys to perform? Yeah, Taker did it better, but Taker's also been doing this every year for the past 30 years.
Right.
Goldberg had a 12-year break.
No excuses, man. Suck it up. I'm just kidding.
I agree, but that's not reality.
No, I get it.
So, but anyways, I agree, man. I think Luchasaurus, if he is out for several months, that's going to be a big loss for AEW.
That team can't go on without. Not saying it can't, but it
won't be the same.
No, it's nowhere near the same.
It can't.
Yeah, it won't be the same. But I thought AEW put on a hell of a show. I think that right now, if I were to say that there's a meter as to who's winning the Wednesday Night Wars, it's AEW.
Right now, yeah.
AEW is currently winning the Wednesday Night Wars. And a month ago, I would have never said that. I would have dogged them the same way where I called them an overglorified ECW house show.
You did. That happened.
But you guys also know me as one that when I'm wrong, I'll admit that I'm wrong, and I accept it and I move on. And they have proved otherwise. I just hope they can sustain it, because there's still a question in my mind about sustainability. Right now, they're not competing against a whole lot. So WWE's not throwing a lot at them. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes down the road. I will be more entertained when we get a night where it's pay-per-view against pay-per-view.
Right.
That's when I'm going to be entertained to see what happens. Because WCW and WWE did it a couple of times. They didn't do it frequently. But WCW typically won those battles. Until you got into the late 2000s, or the early 2000s. And then it just went downhill from there. But I think AEW has a ton of promise. I think everything that's coming out of AEW right now says that Jake Hager is being seen as like a top 5 guy.
Yeah, I get that.
In AEW.
Well, what did you guys think of the main event match and the Cody Rhodes, the tremendous and probably, if not the moment that stuck out to me the most, was that video package they put together for Cody. And,
I thought that was awesome.
And the thing that really stuck out to me the most was he didn't say a word in that video. Everyone else, his closest family members and friends and his team, DDP, his wife, his best friend, who none of us fans like, but we know it's a true friendship, and the friendship and bond that MJF has with Cody is clear. So none of us can ever doubt that or deny that, and he's proven that multiple times.
Right.
But that video, people, of course, WWE is a $1 billion company. You expect them to have great production.
Mm-hmm.
AEW, that was one of the things. All of us were judging AEW from the beginning. Like, what is it going to look like? What are their videos going to look like? It's probably going to look crappy. That video they put together,
No, it was really good.
it was amazing. Right off the start, having him in his kitchen with his wife. It's simple, and it's real. It's the simplest thing. He was at home talking with his wife. She was going, well, he said maybe one line. She was just going, it's just simple, and just a simple build to the story. And we were all sitting there worried, oh, they're not going to have writers, they're not going to have storylines, how are they going to go week to week? Look what they're doing, week to week. Have we ever questioned in this past 3 weeks what their stories are? Or, man, like, I can't get behind this character because I don't know what their story is. None of us have.
I will go back to what I said in the beginning when we knew this was going to happen. You know, it's been 3 weeks, 4 weeks, however many weeks it's been, and they are extremely popular like I thought they would be, just because they're new. I mean, but the product that's out there right now is really good, too. I want to see where we're at in 6 months.
Oh, for sure.
I want to see where we're at in 12 months. So right now, absolutely, we just all said it, it's the best thing on, you know, the best wrestling product on Wednesday nights right now.
It is.
Hands down.
And I agree. That newness and that excitement is still there, and it will be probably throughout the next year. Easy. But we can't... The questions that we had and the judgment that we had, probably unfairly so for the most part, going into this, they've just blown out of the water. So, again, not blowing smoke, because, of course, there's things that they could tweak, but, man, so far, they're 3 for 3.
I mean,
No, I agree.
They had
I'm
several This Is Awesome chants where...
Yeah, and it's... And
They started the show... Excuse me, started the show that way.
And
Right.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was the thing that truly stuck out to me in the main event, and that was the emotion in the crowd, because they literally stood for that entire 20-minute main event. I think the front row sat down maybe for 2 minutes once Darby Allin got his hands tied behind his back or whatever, but
You know what? That was the best part of the match, though.
Right, right.
Did you see what he was doing with his hands tied
It's
behind
insane.
literally with his hands tied
They were duct taped, yeah.
behind
it was
his back.
insane. And that kid was made against Jericho.
But you know what? That took so much skill, because with your
Yeah.
hands back there,
you
kept
can't
climbing
control
the
it.
if you
ropes.
fall
That
one
was-
wrong
oh my
way,
gosh.
either a shoulder or both shoulders or your neck
And it
is
wasn't-
gone.
He dove outside the ring,
Yeah, it
climbed
wasn't
the
just
ropes
basic
several
things
times.
and him just taking different
Right.
moves.
Yeah.
So-
he was literally diving out and off the top rope.
Flipping off. Yeah, I mean, it was
He got
insane.
power
Ridiculous.
bombed on the skateboard.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Kicked out. And I was
Just
like,
get
good
with
lord.
their hands tied.
But it was impressive.
Yeah.
I'm gonna challenge the three of you for next week's episode, and
Anyway.
I'm not letting you take my hands behind my back.
no, the challenge that we still have a bet that will have to be.
Has absolutely nothing to do with you taping my hands.
No,
behind
it
my
doesn't.
back.
It does have everything to do with you dancing to Sami Zayn's entrance song.
The only thing that's getting taped are your forearms and hands with some little X's
not
on.
happening. But anyway, we'll explain later.
No, I'm good.
He's the
So
professor, man. You don't have to explain anything.
the
I make up my own narrative.
the challenge that I have for you guys is I want you to do something that I did this week, and it just for the fact of
I'm not getting your back.
listening to what other folks have to say. So if you look at not what the fans of AEW are saying, but what some of the other wrestling stars are saying about AEW,
Oh, yeah.
and some of them are being very critical of the product because they're saying that those guys, most of them are not going to have a 10, 15, 20-year career. They're going to have 5 to 8 years before they end up killing themselves or being too injured to be able to perform. Because the risks that they're taking are risks that WWE would never allow the stars to take. Mm-hmm. Because they've fought too many lawsuits.
But what...
So, prime example, letting a guy climb ropes with his hands duct taped behind his
Yeah.
back. Yeah. That's one wrong move away from that dude's life being over.
I know.
So,
I get it.
it's, again, I think that's the difference between a company who's trying to prove
But I
a
think
point.
that's going to fade out.
And I think it will too.
Very
And that's what I was just getting ready to say, is
Yeah.
that it's the difference between somebody that's trying to make a point versus a company who doesn't have anything to prove.
Right.
Like WWE has nothing to prove.
Right. Which they
I mean, they don't.
That's-
They
yeah.
they have nothing to prove to anyone. They are the largest live entertainment company on the planet ever. Mm-hmm. So they have nothing to prove to anyone. AEW has everything to prove. And so they're going to pull out all the stops and take risks. And I appreciate that, but I want you guys to my challenge to you is go read what some of the other guys out there are saying. And not the ones that are just knucking futs, but the guys that are actually being...
I'm glad he got that right.
He
No
meant to say it
glitch
the
in
other
there.
way.
He tried to say it right.
That
So-
just happened.
But listen, just go read what they say because some of them are and some of them are just, they're ridiculous, but there's some of them that are spot on with some of their critiques.
Who
And
was it that sent that tweet that Bubba Ray or Bully Ray posted?
I sent
Well, and I was about to say, the best wrestling recap anyone can listen to is Busted Open because
Yeah.
Dave LaGreca, Bully Ray, Tommy Dreamer, and Mark Henry, they all rotate.
Mm-hmm.
The best show. Bully Ray and Dave LaGreca, Dave is the ultimate fan. He is all of us. And then Bully and Mark and Tommy, they just provide the professional input.
Right.
But just the dynamic is just, like, it's so enjoyable. It's only for 3 hours each day, but they have it on Apple now, like a shorter version. But it's amazing. And just listening to Bully Ray, like, I was always a fan of the Dudley Boys, but I was like, Bully Ray's fine. Like, I liked his, his singles character. It was very creative, but... Man, like, I never realized the mind that he had for the business. And that show, like, it really, like, shines light on certain things. So, and, like, with the whole thing with Seth Rollins, like, that's been a hot topic for them. So it's really fascinating to listen to. So you should definitely check it out.
So, yeah, I mean, I definitely, I think that you were right when you said we prejudged AEW.
Thanks, Tommy.
And I was a huge proponent of that. I mean, like I said, I crapped all over them. And I still don't take back what I said about their shows.
No, it's, yeah.
But they are getting better at what they're doing, and that's what I'm happy to see, is that every week they're getting better.
And they're not comfortable.
No.
Like,
And because, again, I think that the mentality is clear. WWE has nothing to prove.
Nope.
and I think they...
AEW has everything.
Yeah, and everything to gain.
Yes. So, if they... Now, what is going to be interesting, so somebody asked me earlier this week, outside of this group, what I thought about the long-term ability of AEW in the ratings war with NXT, and how I felt about the drop of NXT's premiere versus this past week, and how they're significantly, they're hanging out between 650 to 800,000 viewers on an average per hour, and AEW's still hanging right around 750 to 1 million. A little over 1 million in their peak moments, usually at the top of the hour. So my response to them when they said, well, how do you feel about the difference? And I said, well, the difference doesn't matter. And here's why. If you're looking at this on the business side of it, you're looking at week over week, and you're looking at losses versus gains. So if NXT is still bringing in 800,000 viewers a week, and AEW is still bringing in 1 million, and that doesn't change week to week, then your audience isn't changing. If you start to see NXT's drop and AEW's goes up, now you've got transitions of audiences. So the numbers don't actually matter until you see a correlation. They're just numbers until you see the correlation. So that's no different than Double K and I running a wrestling event on the same night as another promoter. If I'm still selling 200 tickets... and that continues, but that other promotions now went from selling 50 tickets to 200 tickets. Well, did I still sell 200? Because if I did, then my product hasn't changed. You might be gaining fans, but mine hasn't changed. So that's where the real difference is going to have to be seen, is do we see one gain from the other? Until that happens, I think it's a moot point. I think NXT loyalists are going to watch NXT, and I think AEW loyalists are going to watch AEW. I think that the proportion of us that are fans of the wrestling business that want to see success and growth in the industry are going to continue to switch back and forth. Mm-hmm. So if you're one of these groups and you're looking at ratings, so ratings get produced on 15-minute quarters. As every 15 minutes they run an average rating. If you see that 250,000 swing between 8:45 and 9, and that 250,000 people drop out of NXT and you see AEW go up, well, that's this group. That's the group that's switching from program to program, trying to watch both shows. Again, you're looking for what's your average viewership across your entire platform, and is there losses or gains? That's the only thing that's going to matter at the end of this. Because let's face it, if NXT is still holding its ground, or even, not even gaining, but just sustaining, it's not going anywhere. USA is not going to drop the program.
WWE is the best thing for USA.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%.
I say as long as they stay over 500, they're
So
fine.
Here's what I think, though. I think that there is a real potential that if this continues to be a challenge for WWE on the platform side of USA, they're going to leverage their relationship with Fox to move Raw and NXT, one if not both, to NBC. Because that, just like Fox, is going to give you a significantly broader audience. USA doesn't give you that because it's cable only.
Yeah.
NBC would give you network television.
Well, and other than Raw and NXT, it's all reruns at this point.
Yeah.
A year from now, are we going to be talking about virtual wrestling drafting? Like, is it just monetizing, or we're leaning the whole way into that direction?
So here, my answer to that really is going to depend on what does Disney want to do with the product.
Game, set, match. Disney. No, I'm there.
Yeah,
with my background,
yeah.
everything is Disney.
Disney.
We're going to do this month. And
Right.
If it works, it does, and if it does, it
Yep.
does. And regardless of whether it works or not, everyone else has to do the same thing behind us.
Yep. If it's going to be whatever Disney wants to do. And for those folks that don't understand that part of it, it's because Disney owns who?
NBC, right?
No,
Pretty much
they
everything.
own Fox.
Oh, they own Fox?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
Oh,
own
yeah.
Fox. Comcast owns NBC.
Oh,
Town.
okay.
So, yeah, Cable Town. But Comcast owns NBC. Comcast also owns USA.
Yeah.
That's all part of the same company.
Yeah.
So that's why I was saying that I could see a shift in the platform from USA to NBC, because if you're USA and you see, let's just take the past 2 weeks, 2.6 million viewers for SmackDown, 1.4 for Raw.
It's insane.
So if you're USA,
Yeah.
if you're NBC right now, you're chomping at the bit, going, "What can I do?"
They're out there. They
To-
want
to get in,
How do I get-
yeah.
How do I get them to come to mind?
Right.
And the thing that still is kind of like foggy to me is how is USA just so okay with Fox picking a show, taking the show, still having a relationship with WWE for their other show, and being okay with WWE pretty much crapping on USA, giving them not so great
Yeah.
storylines, obviously ratings, like you have the Lana thing with Bobby Lashley. Like, obviously they're not really, I don't want to say they're putting in, but lately Raw has sucked for the most part, or not been what it should be. How is USA as a network okay with that? But,
So USA's NBC's deal with WWE was $320 million for USA.
Decisions are never made by creatives; they're made by attorneys and accountants.
no, I get that, but it's just,
$320 million versus $1.6 billion. If you're, what are you going to tell WWE? Hey, I'll match what Fox is paying you.
well, no.
Okay.
You and what promise?
Right.
Give me
So I mean,
promise.
if that's but so that's where I think that folks that like fans of the wrestling industry have to take that step back and understand that this is a business, and it's a performing art is what it is. And so at the end of the day, you've got guys that are writing stage writing plans, that are doing the production side of this, that control everything about what this business is. It has zero to do with what you want to see as a fan.
Yeah.
Zero. It has everything to do with what they know sells tickets.
Well, I think Raw pretty much
Uh,
shoves that in our
But you
face.
know what? Guess what still
That's
happens
real.
every Monday night?
Huh?
Guess what still happens every Monday night?
Oh, yeah, I watch.
1.4 million
Yeah.
people tune in and watch it.
Yeah.
So if wrestling fans want to change WWE, there's only one way that you're going to do that. And guess what it is?
That's not watching.
Stop watching.
And I can't. It's like I'm addicted.
And that's what they
I really
know.
like Monday. I was so disappointed in the show. Like I just wanted to play a video game. But I was like,
That's-
I have until 11. I
That's-
have 2 hours.
That is exactly what they know, and that's why we
know.
continue to get the
and
crappy
that's why I
product.
get so frustrated because it's like,
So-
man, I know I'm stuck with you, but just change, man.
It is such an industry of money. And we've even seen some of that on Double K and I's side as we are planning a promotion.
Oh, we are, right?
You.
And then
We are.
looking at what happens, prime example, just the cost fees for some of these guys. There's a significant difference between a guy that wrestles all over the country versus somebody who just wrestles locally here in Virginia. So where do you think that guy that wrestles all over the country is going to go? He's going to go wherever the money is. So it's no different. So that very principle can be expanded on every level.
No, I know. It's just weird that they can just choose one show
because they don't have the money.
But no. But I'm saying for Fox, why would you just choose SmackDown and not take both?
Because you can back one horse and guarantee numbers in a quarterly meeting to stockholders. You can back two horses and then say this is doing better now and this might do better later.
I mean,
it's one recipe that works at every Max Moogles or Burger Fuhrer, right?
So here's where I'm going to challenge you on that just a little bit, though.
I don't.
And here's what I'm going to tell you is the reason why that happened was two reasons. One, WWE did not want to sell both shows. They still had a commitment to USA that they could not drop. So they had to fulfill that commitment. They could not pull their programming altogether.
But I figured once this date comes, the next day they're both Fox.
So because here's the reality of it. We as fans have seen SmackDown and Raw on the same network, and even though they're brands that are competing, what do we not get?
Like competition?
You don't get competition. No. What's the only way you're going to force that? Have brands on different networks.
You got to separate them.
You're forcing the competition. So, because really, this is what people have to get out of their head. This is not SmackDown competing against Raw.
No, and I'm not saying it is at all. I'm just saying, for me, in my mind, not show for show, my mind was, why would Fox choose one and not the other? And why wouldn't you choose Raw? If Raw is the longest running show, why would you choose Raw, or why would you choose SmackDown and not Raw? So for me personally, that was just what I was always questioning. That's cool. I'm super happy they chose one, but why wouldn't you choose the flagship show?
The one that's already the biggest one. Yeah, right.
But it's expectation setting. We can do blank with this brand.
But Raw and SmackDown rating wise and viewership is pretty similar within week.
Not historically though.
But
so
if you take an average,
within the past 2 years, yes. Yeah. But if you look at SmackDown's rating history prior to 2017,
it wasn't. Yeah,
they averaged fewer than 1 million viewers every single week. They were the NXT.
But within the past few years, it's drastically changed.
It has, but so think about this from a big business perspective. Brand recognition is huge.
Right.
So what is the automatic network that you associate Raw with?
USA.
Right, because that's where it's been for 90% of its life.
Right.
How many different networks has SmackDown been on?
A lot.
Right.
And it's been on different nights.
Yep. So they had the ability to take something and say, okay, we're going to redefine it. That wouldn't have worked with Raw, because Raw is synonymous with USA. SmackDown's not. It's been moved. So it's, hey, do I really want to try to redefine something that's already been concreted in foundation, or do I want to take something that's never had a foundation and give it one?
Or is it the same token, because Raw is also synonymous with Monday nights, obviously. Even if you take the USA Network out of it, it's always been on Monday. You can't move a Raw to Fox because you have Monday Night Football and things like that, and other top shows that are on Fox.
Sure, I'm sure that was part of it.
And wrestling is not going to trump NFL ever, ever, which it shouldn't. In all honesty, it just business. Come on, but so I guess that makes sense. I guess I could have asked you that, not during the show. Sorry, because it was more a me question than anything else. So.
Well, it's fine. That's why we call this the Wildcard edition. There were no rules to this specific episode. Yeah. But we have now gotten to, we're coming up on our hour and a half mark of the show. So that's going to take us, we have no Poke the Bear segment this week. But this week we are going to do Wrestle Rewind trivia. And we're gonna give you a shot at competing for Wrestle Rewind trivia.
Oh, the professor is in.
We have a fourth buzzer for Norman, for Professor Crumbs.
Professor Norman Crumbs.
That's I know, but I wanted to call you by your actual name, Professor. PC. Wanted to give you your credit for your degree.
PC.
So it's PK.
PK, sorry, my bad.
I was corrected already once. It's PK. So
I need you guys to get with the program.
My bad.
The disrespect.
Right?
So, our reigning defending Wrestle Rewind champion,
He's got a
A-Man.
little peek.
A little, I mean, I'm looking at judge. Don't talk about me. This is great.
I'm just taking it all in.
I like it. The
All
best part
right.
is,
Oh yeah. So you're just playing with yourself.
Oh, so you can see the LED.
yeah. Oh,
So-
yeah. There we go.
But is it exploding in your chest? Is the question.
It apparently was exploding on his chest.
So, that means there's 4 people to compete this week for Wrestle Rewind Trivia, and Professor Crumbs, here are the rules.
Okay.
15 questions. Whoever has the highest score at the end of the 15 questions is the winner. I ask the questions.
Sore loser
If
already.
someone buzzes in prior to me finishing the question, they have to answer where I'm at that point in time.
Okay.
I will let you know if the questions are more. Yes, I can see.
I'm going to need you to calm down.
Just making sure.
the,
I know you guys are. Okay.
I will let you know if the questions are multiple choice prior to asking it, so that way you know.
I don't know. Last week you didn't.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't, so I'm going to try to do better at it this week.
That's true.
So I do give hints every 30 seconds.
And they're not good, but they're hints.
So he's so bitter about that all the time.
Thank you, Professor.
I deal with this shit.
So here we
every
go.
week.
Fair.
Every
The
week.
Fair,
first
Professor.
question is multiple choice.
Oh.
The Orient Express at SummerSlam of 1990 was which 2 men?
God.
Sato and Tanaka? Misawa and Kawada? Or Togo and T?
C. Answer C.
Yo, if he wins all this game tonight,
That is incorrect. Double K.
Stay with the theme here. A.
Sato and Tanaka is
Yes.
correct.
You're my pin.
Congratulations on your 50-50 win.
Thank you. And it's blue.
There were 3 potential answers.
And I gave one of them,
Right?
leaving you 2.
I got it.
It's 50-50.
Don't try and professor me. No, you're not exempt to ass whippings either.
I did. I was.
Question number 2. Who did Ron Garvin defeat via submission at the Royal Rumble in 1990?
Hands of stone.
Was it Greg Valentine, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, or Tugboat?
I don't know why that just sounds fun.
C. Tugboat.
Is he going to be your answer for everything?
Have you taken a multiple choice test?
C is incorrect, Double K.
Sticking with the theme, go A.
It was Greg Valentine. Question number 3.
Player on
This
your team right here.
this is not multiple choice.
I thought you were only telling us that they were multiple choice.
You can still answer C if you want.
C.
What are the names of the Road Dogg's 3 wrestling brothers?
Damn it.
Oh.
You write them down.
Yeah.
Such a good question.
John, Jacob, and Jingle Schmidt. You had to check.
Those
You had
are-
to check.
I wanted to see if John or Jacob were either of them, but it's not. All 3 are incorrect.
Time for a hit.
Your first hint is one of these individuals' names shares a name with another wrestler who also happened to be Stone Cold.
Jesus.
All right,
Nope.
I've got 2 of them.
Yeah.
I've got 2 of them.
That one last one.
30 seconds.
The second hint I will give you is this individual shares a name with one of the Steiner brothers.
Figures, dude. That's the one I had.
And your final hint with 12 seconds remaining, this individual shares his first name with a former WWE talent, last name Maddox. Double K.
Scott Steve Brad.
It is Scott Steve Brad.
I had Scott and Steve the entire time.
So you were waiting on that last.
Yeah, I had Scott and Steve the entire time. For some reason, I could not get Brad out.
Neither could Paige. In which division?
Wait a minute. Time out. Hold up.
Question number 4. In which division of the military was Road Dogg a member? Smokey Z.
The Army.
That is incorrect. Double K.
Marines.
That is correct.
I was going to kind of pile on to that little comment you made, and I mean, it was all about that power of positivity.
It's funny because everyone was there.
Thank you, Nico.
He was there, all right.
Question number 5. In a World Wrestling Federation magazine interview, Ken Shamrock stated that his dream in high school was to become what? Double K.
WWF champion?
No, sir. That is incorrect.
Yeah, I don't know.
A guidance counselor.
Says the professor.
That is also incorrect.
It's a good guess, though.
That's a good guess.
It was a guess.
I feel like I just listened to an interview with him.
Well, this was in a magazine, so.
No, but he mentioned it. Like,
I'll give you your first hint for Smokey Z and A-Man. It was a professional sport.
A boxing champion.
That is incorrect.
It's a good guess, though.
Sweet science.
A-Man.
When you say it was a professional sport, like it
Still is. Nope, still is.
Good question, though. Good catch.
what did you say? You
So
said
you got to
boxing?
watch it now.
I don't know. Basketball.
That is also incorrect. It was an NFL football player.
Okay. I could see Shamrock doing stuff like that.
Question number 6. Who defeated Goldust at WrestleMania 13? This is multiple choice. Who defeated Goldust at WrestleMania 13?
C.
I love it.
That is incorrect. The only 2 remaining options are Ahmed Johnson and Triple H. Double K.
I just hit it so I could beat those 2 really fast. Triple H.
That is correct. It was Triple H. Question number 7. Who was Mankind's tag team partner at WrestleMania 13? This is multiple choice. Is it Dude Love, Vader, or The Undertaker? Smokey Z.
The Undertaker.
That is incorrect. Double K.
What were the other 2 again? Dude Love and who?
Vader.
Vader.
Vader is correct.
Run a clinic here, man.
Question number 8.
I guess.
What is the first name of Kaientai member Tio?
C.
This was not multiple
No,
choice.
C. Like the word C.
That is incorrect.
Good guess, though.
Why do I feel like Will Ferrell on an episode of Celebrity Jeopardy with this guy?
It's a big hat. Don't get a regular hat.
It's not what your mother said, Trebek.
It's a sword, damn it. Saber.
We get a hint?
Yes, this name is shared by a label as a gender on a restroom.
What? Say it again?
Shared by a label as a... So like a sign on a restroom would say hombres.
What was the last name?
Tio. You've
already
already
answered.
guessed.
Double T.
Take his bus.
It doesn't buzz, by the way.
That's because he destroyed the speaker.
All right, 30 seconds. We need a new hint.
I can't give you another hint for this one. It's one of 2.
One of 2 what?
Labels on a restroom. It's one. No.
Female?
No.
Women?
No. Men's. Men's was the answer.
Huh? Men's Tio?
Yes.
That's his name?
That's his name.
What?
All right.
Question number 9. What is the first name of Kaientai member Funaki?
Show.
That is correct.
Finally.
Hey!
Question number 10. Name the man who managed Kaientai when they first entered the Federation.
No.
Well, let's hear it.
Mr. Fuji.
That is incorrect.
Glad you were wrong, because I was going to say that.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Like at first, it's like got it. And
That's why you noticed I was going to go ahead and hit it anyway, and I was like, I'm going to wait and see what she says.
I knew the second I hit
And there's no hint. I got nothing for this.
That was my
It's
strategy.
probably a flavor of ramen noodles.
Chicken.
Shrimp.
I got nothing.
Oriental.
I don't. I mean,
I don't have a
gonna-
hint for that.
Sit this one out.
I have no idea.
Honestly,
C. No, it's not C.
You guys just give up?
is this the opposite gender door?
No.
Okay.
No, I literally don't have anything I can come up with as a hint.
I'm not gonna.
And you can only imagine how bad it is if I have nothing.
I've got nothing, man.
No clue.
I already
Hey,
answered wrong.
It's not
B.
multiple choice.
yeah, she's already answered.
Already
The answer was Yamaguchi-san.
We should have gotten that. That should have been
You
like.
feel a little not good about that, right?
You know what? I'm not gonna worry about that. I feel like I'm gonna let that go.
Points.
Double K needs to get one more
Yeah,
question.
amen. You'll need, or Smokey Z, either of you need to answer, or
Or the
Professor.
I've answered everything.
None of them
But
correctly.
correctly.
You didn't say correct. You said
I need you to answer, one of you needs to answer this question correctly, other than double K, for the game to continue. Question number 11. What title did Harvey Whippleman hold? Was it Doctor, Sir, or King? Double K.
Doctor.
It was indeed Doctor.
Oh my goodness!
And that wraps up this week's Wrestle Rewind trivia.
Take this.
Double K taking the game 7-1
to 0-0.
against A-Man. A rough showing this week by
That's right, I
Smokey
haven't won
Z
yet.
and in A-Man.
You
Usually
don't have
A-Man,
one
you
yet, or you
I haven't
won
won yet.
But you have one. Like in all time.
no, he's
No.
never even gotten one.
So currently,
Yeah.
you and Smokey Z are tied
Tied for
the same amount of championships
for
won.
last.
Right.
I was just gonna say it more like same amount of titles won,
Which is 0.
but we don't have to say that. Just
Okay.
But it's 0.
it
But
is-
it's 0.
But it's 0.
Like, I mean,
No, it's none.
I've come
so
close.
it's not even on the measuring
It's
scale.
less than 1.
So 0.
0.
0.
Yeah, 0.
I'm
Okay.
comfortable with that.
All right.
I'm gonna win one time.
So, folks, that's going to...
Close 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, he did.
Last
It
week,
was,
last
Close
week.
a couple of
it
times.
came down to the final question 2 weeks ago.
What was that final score?
It was like, what, this
7-1.
7-1.
Yeah.
0-0.
So
Yeah.
that's going to wrap up this week's episode of Wrestle Rewind, folks. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to us and watch us once again. We appreciate Professor Crumbs joining us for his first episode.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, sir.
And as for me, I'm Tommy T,
Double K.
Amen.
Smokey Z.
and we will see you guys next week live at 8:30 p.m. for Wrestle Rewind.
Is it C? Does anybody use the B word?